Hey everybody, this is video number 27. This is going to be all about atomic mass. You're definitely going to need a periodic table for this video. If you're watching in class, go grab a textbook. There's one right in the back of the book. If you're online or if you're at home, go ahead and pull one up on your computer. Atoms make up elements. Now remember in our last video we talked about atoms are the smallest piece of matter that still have physical and chemical properties. And an atom is actually a term that describes an amount. So it tells you how much of each element that you have. So you can say I have one atom of the element oxygen. And the way you would say that is you would say I have one atom of oxygen. Now, could you have 2 atoms of oxygen? Absolutely. Could you have 3,000? Sure, absolutely. So these are just describing amounts. So that's what an atom actually does. So you're going to hear me from now on for quite a while. You're going to hear me talking about elements. Now remember, all matter is composed of elements, and the cool thing is that you can find out if anything is an element because it's on the periodic table. The periodic table has added more elements over time as we have found them. So the way they arrange the periodic table is nobody has time to write out these big words that represent each element, so we do it by a symbol. And you guys will need to know these symbols. So a couple examples here: H for hydrogen and O for oxygen. Now whenever you're writing anything for me in class, you certainly can use the symbols at any time. So if you want to talk about carbon and you just want to write C, that's totally fine. So each element only has one capital letter, and remember we knew that from classifying matter. Remember when it was back from an element or a compound? But elements can also have up to 2 other lowercase letters. So I'm giving you a couple examples here. So you have capital H and lower e for helium, or capital P and lowercase b for lead. And if you're like, where did that come from? They use the Latin. Now capitals and lowercase count. Now normally I don't get too excited about your handwriting or things like that, but this is the one time that you absolutely have to be super precise and accurate. Say you're trying to say nickel, and you do capital N and capital I instead of capital N lowercase I. Well, instead of nickel, all of a sudden you have nitrogen and iodine now. So that's why you have to be very careful when you're using capitals and lowercase. Now, don't get too worried about this. You guys will need to memorize the 30 most common element symbols. That is the only thing I will probably ask you to memorize in all of science. This will help you tremendously, both in my class and in the coming years up at Pinkerton or wherever high school that you go. All you need to be able to say is aluminum is Al. And of course, we'll practice a lot of these in class, and we'll make flashcards and things like that. So you know I won't leave you to your own devices on this. But those are the 30 most common, not the first 30. That's very different. All right, so how are elements arranged and identified? Well, they're all arranged and identified. If you look at the periodic table below, they are all arranged by their atomic number. And their atomic number is usually right on the top. So I've given you the first 2 of the periodic table. So hydrogen is the first one. So its atomic number is 1. And helium is the second one. So its atomic number of 2. And you can read that all the way down on the periodic table, starting with 1 all the way up to 118. Now the atomic number equals the number of protons. Now remember, we talked about protons, how they live in the nucleus with the neutrons. Remember, they're housemates. The way you can always tell what an atomic number is it's always on top. Okay, it's always written above the element symbol, pretty much in every periodic table. Sometimes it's not, but for the majority of the time it is. It's also easy to tell because it's a whole number, so it's not a decimal. And I want you guys to practice finding the atomic number and the element symbol for a couple of elements that I have for you. Now, if you're working with somebody and you find the element, could you literally put your finger down and show them where it is on the periodic table? It's going to be important for you to understand where things are located. Now, do you have to memorize it? Absolutely not. I just want you to be familiar with it. Okay, put me on pause. Go find them. So we have O for oxygen, and that's the number 8. Carbon, which is capital C, and that was, of course, 6 for its atomic number. Hydrogen, our first one, I told you this at the beginning, was capital H and just 1. Iron, Fe, remember they're going back to the Latin here, and I hope you did capital F, lowercase e is 26. And nitrogen, which is just plain old N but capitalized, and it is 7. So I hope you did well. Alright, summary time here. So just remember we talked about all the elements are found on the periodic table. You're going to end up making flashcards for those 30 most common. And then what I would include in your summary is how to find the atomic number and what do the symbols include, sort of what are the rules. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in class.